So earlier today on social media, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, absolutely obliterated Senator Josh Hawley for continuing his lie, for continuing the BS that he and other conservative elites are supposedly being muzzled, silenced, censored, whatever you want to call it. So he went to the New York Post and wrote an op-ed basically saying this, that I've been silenced, or they're trying to silence and muzzle me, and I'm not going to take it anymore, and you shouldn't take it either. But of course it's BS, because he wrote it in one of the larger papers in the United States, and his story has wide appeal across all of conservative media. So AOC basically said the following. She said, "You were given prime space to say this in a billionaire-run rag that specifically amplifies right-wing views, part of an entire subsidized industry of right-wing outlets. You're not muzzled, Hawley. You're just deeply unpopular and you need to resign." And then she goes on to add, and I think this is crucial because it shows how the discourse around free speech from the right isn't about free speech, but about no consequences for what they say. And what she says here is, listening to them, you'd really think some conservatives interpret the right to free speech as, quote, I have the right to be liked, accepted, and popular no matter what I say, who I endanger, or how much I lie. And that hits the nail on the head. Josh Hawley isn't really mad because he's being quote unquote censored. He's mad because his views were expressed, his views were abhorrent, and various people and some organizations have chosen to not associate with him or have demanded that they don't want to associate with him, whether it means resigning from the Senate or losing his book deal or what have you. This man and people like him are not censored or silenced or muzzled in any way. He wrote that in the GD New York Post, one of the bigger online sources for right-wing media, and it gets a lot of play. And in that article, embedded in that article, I have a screenshot up here. I'm not going to play the clip and legitimize it, but in the article, there is a clip of Fox News, one of the biggest networks, talking about Hawley's story of quote-unquote being censored. So you have Josh Hawley writing in this billionaire-owned newspaper, and his story is getting covered and circulated on Fox News and everywhere on social media. He's literally a senator who can still speak on the Senate floor and have his words forever enshrined in the literal public record of the most powerful country in the world. He is not being silenced. You've heard this before from conservatives. They'll go to the New York Times, like the real biggest paper in the world, potentially, the New York Times, and they'll write in their New York Times weekly column, conservatives are being silenced. The cognitive dissonance is baffling to me, that you think that you're being silenced. There is no one on the right being silenced specifically because of conservative views. Yeah, what happened to Donald Trump is he incited, and his incitement led him to be kicked off many social media platforms, but he's still not silenced. He could still write letters to the editors of most newspaper. He could still publish things on his website. He can still, I guarantee you, if he asks for an interview slot on Fox News or OAN or Newsmax, or frankly, other sources, they would likely give it to him. If he went to CNN and said, I would like to do an interview with one of your journalists, and I want you to air it live prime time, I guarantee you they would do it. Same thing with Hawley. It might not be the interview he wants. It might not be a softball interview. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But it will be something that really invalidates the claim of censorship. This really does show, guys, that conservatives, especially far-right conservatives, the people that really supported Donald Trump and the people that really encouraged what happened on January 6th at the Capitol, they are bad faith actors around free speech. They are not really supporters of it. What they want is their speech to be totally consequence-free, but actually, when the chips are down, they will ban any sort of speech that's critical of them. So many of these conservatives have tried to ban any criticism of Israel. Like, for example, professors have been fired for criticizing Israel and these sorts of things. And not only do they stand silent as it happens, but they often support that censorship of free speech. If that is censorship, it's a lot more like it than what Hawley's experiencing. I mean, even his book deal, for God's sakes, guys. Yeah, he lost his original book deal with a big publisher because they didn't want to publish with a guy that encouraged the downfall of American democracy by force. Pretty reasonable if you ask me. But then he found another publisher. Like, that's a sign that he didn't lose his free speech. Yeah, maybe he lost his ability to work with one company in particular, but Josh Hawley still found a publisher to make his book available to those that want to buy it. And even if he didn't have that, Hawley hasn't been banned from Twitter. Hawley hasn't been banned from Facebook. Hawley still has his own website. He could publish his book for free on his website. He could do that. No one would take that down. So I just don't want to hear this from conservatives anymore. And I don't want to see people on the left waste our energy defending these bad faith actors. Don't do it. Don't fall into the trap of saying, oh, we have to uncritically 100% of the time, all the time, defend any sort of speech from any right winger because we don't want to look like hypocrites. They do not care. This is a battle, literally, of life and death, given what we saw. And these people are our enemies. Their speech isn't being censored, and even if it is, like, guys, look, I don't care. These people are enemies of ours, and I'm not going to defend them. AOC is right to call out this BS, and Josh Hawley does need to resign, and if he doesn't resign, he should be expelled, and maybe criminal charges too.